Pastor Roy Gerhardt from Galloway United Methodist Church in Franklin, Pennsylvania, sharing a few words of encouragement to help us follow after Jesus. The copy machine is such an incredible invention. To be able to take a piece of paper, make a copy, and have it turn out so well that it's hard to tell sometimes which one is the original. But even as they have improved, it's still a problem whenever you make copies of copies. If you take copies of copies of copies and run those out multiple generations, well, things begin to fade. You begin to lose elements out of that image. It can become illegible, and the whole picture on the page can change. That's an important thing to keep in mind, that you always want to work from an original, never copying a copy. Years ago, there was a movie that Michael Keaton starred in called Multiplicity, where he was a struggling contractor. He was too busy to keep up with work and home and his wife and all of the other things going on in his life. And so along came a guy that invented a copy machine that could clone human beings. And so he submitted to having himself cloned. And it went terrifically at first. I mean, he could be in two places at once. He could keep up with work and with his wife. Things were really going well. So well, in fact, that he made some more copies. But then the copies decided that they could use some help. And the clones started cloning themselves. And when that happened, well, things really started to fall apart because the quality began to suffer. The intelligence began to be lost. Abilities began to fall out. And it became a bigger and bigger nightmare for him. That's what happens when you're not working from the original, but making copies of copies, and things begin to degrade. That's absolutely true when it comes to spiritually trying to pass along our faith to someone else, to our kids, to our grandkids. I mean, yesterday was Father's Day, and man, that really sets my focus on that calling that I have to be able to pass along to my kids and my grandkids and to other people around me. This faith that I have, this relationship with God. And that's the crucial thing to remember, is that being an original means that you have a personal connection with God, that you've surrendered your life to God. You're not just imitating someone else's connection with God, but you have your own walk with Him. And that makes you an original. This is a struggle, though, and the people of Israel met this struggle. At the beginning of the book of Judges, it tells us that the Joshua generation passed away. These were the people who had fought the battles. They had been faithful and obedient in following the Lord's instruction, and God had opened up the promised land to them. But now things were settled in. Those battles were now stories and memories that were passing away with that generation. The next generation now comes along, and they are like a bad copy of the original. They don't have the same connection with God. They don't have the same drive and intense need to be able to seek after God and remain faithful to Him. They begin to seek after other gods, look to make their fortunes by other means, and so that they begin this rebellion and turning away from God. And this will begin a whole cycle of problems in the book of Judges, where we see them actually then becoming a copy of these originals. And then each time it says that they go through a cycle where they fall away from God, and God will raise up a leader and lead them along, and they'll be right with God for a while. But when that leader is gone, they're right back to it, and in fact, worse than they were before. It sounds like we're making copies of copies of copies, and the image is falling apart. It's degrading with each generation after. And so that you begin to realize this desperate need to always work from an original. Now, the good news is that you can always turn a copy into an original. When you stop just imitating those who have gone before you and actually gain that relationship with God, you need to be an original. Don't be a copy trying to pass on that image to somebody else. Instead, be an original. Build that connection with God. Surrender your life to Him and pass that relationship with God on to somebody else. May God bless you today. And as you share this good news, may God make you a blessing wherever He takes you.